You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Innovation Fuel. We are on all podcast streaming platforms, Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Visit our website at www.ucanwest.ca/Innovation Fuel. Also, follow us on Instagram at innovation_fuel.
Hi, Dave. Happy Friday.
Is it Friday already? Oh my God. Wow. Where does the time go? Hey, Gelareh, you know something? There's a big swings that are happening out there right now. There's some disruption that's happening out there around search and search elements. And more people are looking for information. They're not going to the search engines anymore as much. There seems to be a decline and a push towards social and more a push towards community building. And I think, more and more consumers are getting a little bit weary about ads and being disrupted by these things. And what they want to do is they want to get to the real goods. They want to get to the real information. And the best way to get to the real information is to talk to people you know, or people in a peer network that are looking for the same elements. And so this direction towards moving towards this community element seems to be very interesting.
I ask my friends that they know something's not financial advice, is someone who can get benefit to give me advice. I prefer to talk with some people, they are already doing it and they are not trying to sell something to you.
Yeah, and I think that's what I think is where people are going, is where's the trust network? I don't know if I trust going to Google anymore and looking up at these people that I want to get more information from. I want to push into a peer network that's already had some experience before and might be able to answer some of my questions. And I think one of the biggest ones that I really definitely want, and I think maybe today, Gelareh, you might have this answer, is that, where do I make those investments? Who do I make the investments with? How do I go about those elements? And who can I talk to? And who's making these investments? And what are they making? And I want to be able to see those things in real time.
Absolutely, Dave. I think that our guests today can help us. Max and Kartik, co-founders of Social Blossom, can help us to understand about how community can help for your financial investment. Let's welcome Kartik and Max. Let's welcome Maxwell Nicholson, co-founder and CEO of Blossom Social Investment, Kartik Bhutani, co-founder and CTO, and also Anika NG, co-founder and chief of officer, couldn't be with us. Hi, Dave. Hi, Kartik. Hi, Max.
Hello, Gelareh, and welcome to another episode of Innovation Fuel, brought to you by University Canada West. We are so excited about our journey today. We're going to get into a lot of new discussion. We want to learn lots about Blossom. We've got the founders of Blossom right here with us to get into the world of finance. Ooh, interesting. And we might talk about co-founder elements and co-collaboration. And where do you find people to help you build an idea? Well, let's turn it over to our friends here. We've got Max, the CEO, and we got Kartik, the CTO of Blossom. Before we go into Blossom, guys, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, thanks for that introduction. As you said, my name's Max. I'm the CEO of Blossom. To share, I guess, quickly high level about my background, I graduated from University of Victoria here on Vancouver Island with an honors degree in economics. After university, went on to work in management consulting at McKinsey, 2.5 years doing sort of projects related to everything from fintech to pharma. Even one project I was doing marketing for a theme park. And so really took a journey all over industries as well as all over North America, because as people know, there's a lot of travel with consulting. But then about 2 years back, sort of had that realization that I've sort of known from youth, and maybe we'll get into that later, that hey, I actually am really passionate and driven towards this entrepreneurship thing. And, you can't really get that at McKinsey or in consulting. So made the decision to leave that job and start Blossom, which is basically we're building Canada's first social brokerage. And so building social community for Canadian investors to connect, share knowledge, with the ultimate goal of them being able to buy and sell stocks and ETFs directly on the platform as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, about my journey at a high level, and I'll pass it to Kartik to introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Max. So greetings to all the listeners here. So nice to meet you guys. My name is Kartik and I'm based out of India. My background in graduation is in computer science, and my expertise is in developing and scaling platforms after creating the application and architecture from scratch. And I'm leading Blossom's tech team. And in my free time, even since college, I used to spend a lot of free time in creating mobile applications and scripts to automate stuff. So in fact got a chance to work on a project related to self-driving cars soon after college. But yeah, apart from all the nerdy stuff, I love to drive, especially when it's raining, and in fact making digital sketches apart from work. And just like Max, I had a similar entrepreneurship inclination. I also left my job at Tickle, which is now a unicorn, like in 2020. And soon after that, Max and Max and me knew each other from some time back. We'll be talking about that in detail. Then Max and I stayed in touch. Then we connected, and there was a immediate connect with the product and everything. That's how it got started.
There is one more founder here, Annika. And how is Annika connected? How does Annika connect here? Can you tell us a little about Annika too?
So actually, myself, I actually met both Annika and Kartik at competitions. So with Annika, there's a competition called CEO for a Day here in Canada that we took part in and met there. And then there was a hackathon that Kartik and I competed in at the University of Hong Kong, I believe, about 5 years back. And both I think were probably pretty similar times. I think I met Kartik and Annika probably within 6 months of each other. They didn't know each other for a while, and that was like at least 5 years ago now. The hackathon was, Kartik, and same with the other competition.
So interesting. So tell us guys a little bit about Blossom. Why Blossom? How did you stumble across the idea?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can give the high level on the product side, and then Kartik, maybe you can speak briefly on what's exciting on the tech side. But yeah, I think I hinted at it, Dave, around the goal to build Canada's first social brokerage. And, really what we saw with the journey of new investors is, you sign up for your brokerage account. Maybe there's some people at the university who, they're opening brokerage account up for the first time to start investing in the stock market. And really there's only two major players in Canada, right? You got Questrade, Wealthsimple, and then you got the long tail of like the big banks, which most people hate because their apps kind of suck, right? And the ratings say that. I'm not trying to be mean. They have a demographic that they're going after, and it's definitely not the young people. But then sort of the next step is, what the heck should I invest in? And the way that people answer that is they go to Reddit, they go to TikTok now, they go to YouTube, all of these social platforms, which are poorly built for that, tool of or that task of sharing knowledge and reading investing insights. And so we set out to build a platform that sort of fixes that part of the journey. And currently the product links to users' existing brokerage and is solely that community. So we have a community of about 10,000 investors logging in every day to share their knowledge, share their portfolios and trades, because that's the thing that makes us really unique from those other social platforms, is that people are actually sharing their real investments to the rest of Canada and to their friends and other Canadians. But our ultimate aspiration is to build the brokerage side. So currently we link to existing brokerages. We just provide that social aspect. The next step is to allow people to trade, buy and sell stocks directly in the platform. And that's when we talk about being the first social brokerage. That's what we mean. That's, I think, the really exciting part about it is, if we're able to, in the end state, be, what we want to be and achieve our vision, it's really around making investing more accessible and making it, easier for people when they're getting started to also have that support of the community and share knowledge, ask questions, see what other friends and peers are investing in, and really help people, get started on that investing journey. And so I think that's what really excites me about it, is that potential to really shape the experience for most people, especially newer investors when they're getting started. I'll pass it over to you, Kartik, in case there's any other elements of it that either excite you or that you want to call out, because I know I can do a lot of talking sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to the time when it started, when Max and I talked about it for the first time, I was going to start my own startup, which was on the idea of basically social network for Instagram influencers. And in considering that, and the fact that I am myself an avid investor, the idea itself, the connect was instant, and that was my kick. I think going ahead, like in Blossom, as much as it's about tech and managing, it's about creating the best practices, and it's a crucial trade-off between leaning down the features along with implementing in such a way that they can be iterated over and over again. So I would say that is my real kick. That's what I love doing in entrepreneurship, and yeah, learning from things and keep on implementing the more and more correct version.
Is your app connecting to other platform or investments, or all the data should manually entered by the users?
So basically, there are two modes in which user can input the data. First is purely manual. That is, they can just enter their data that this is the transaction I made at any brokerage, well, simple, Questrade, or in fact, this is the holding I have at those brokerages. They can just input it in Blossom, and a portfolio will be created, and that portfolio will be shared across everyone. Like everyone, it's so transparent that you can just go onto the app and see other person's portfolio. And whereas on this other side, also provide a way to link your brokerages. So as of now, we have a way of linking three core brokerages of Canada: Wealthsimple, Questrade, and IBKR. So people can just go, click on link, enter their credential. Their brokerage will get linked automatically, and the trades which they do at those platforms will automatically be notified to Blossom. In fact, those trades will be converted into a like presentable activity feed form, and will be shared to your followers also.
My transactions in other platform, in Canadian platform, will be, if I'm connected them, it will be shared with my followers. And the followers can ask questions regarding that, any kind of why I bought that one. Is it just a text and there's no voice or video as well? It's just a text, right?
Yeah, right now it's text, then URLs, then images also. Later on, we have plans to like introduce video and voice, as per obviously the trends are going that side, making it shorter and shorter in form of stories. So yeah, that's all in the near future roadmap, I would say.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So you made this app because you found a platform of accessibility for everyone that wants to do investments, right?
Yeah, I think it's really about building community at the end of the day. And I think through building community, you're building a more like inclusive environment for people to learn. Because we see that as you know, Kartik hinted to other apps with the short form video and that. But I think the other really big trend of the century is that like shift towards social, shift towards community, as far as like how people learn and how people, you know, want to interact with each other. It's like finance and investment has historically been such a personal solo activity. And as a result, there's huge gaps still in like financial literacy, depending on your upbringing, depending on so many different things. So basically like breaking down those barriers so that everyone can share those knowledge and get access to that knowledge, I think is a really big part of, you know, what we're trying to achieve. And we think the best way to do that is through a social community and a social network.
Yeah, and I think Gelareh, I think when we look at the other ones, the Wealthsimple and Questrade, they're focusing on artificial intelligence for sure to drive some of those investments and those elements, but they don't have this way of having this two-way relationship. They have the one-way relationship where you go and you go in there. This is my understanding, guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like if they have that one-way relationship, but the idea of Blossom is to get that social community, get people talking to one another, create that two-way conversation, create that engagement piece so that people can learn and invest at the same time.
I mean, we definitely look up to Wealthsimple in a big way, because if we talk about that journey, like they were sort of the biggest factor that really unlocked a lot of, you know, investing for Canadians, because they made it so easy, they made it so simple. And so they've sort of taken that big first step, versus if we think before them, you know, you sign up for this bank, or even you have to go in to the advisor, sit down. They're basically going to try and sell you their mutual funds for the whole time while you're trying to set up your account. And then you finally set it up, and then you log onto this platform that's like extremely convoluted and confusing. And you're basically just getting started, right? Versus Wealthsimple, they stripped down a lot of that complexity, made it very simple, which is of course in their name. And so it's a big improvement, which I think is reflected in the fact that, they're the only player in the Canadian market, I think, founded after 2001. All the other ones are like over 20 years old. They're sort of the new entrant in the market. And they already have, I think, like 15% market share. They're a $5 billion business, one of the Canadian startup success stories. I think we're basically just saying, we're the next stage in that journey. And if we're really trying to make investing more accessible and more like inclusive, then that next step is, okay, we've made it simple. Now let's actually make it so people can support one another in that journey. And we've seen that shift as well as people are starting to do that naturally anyway in the real world. And so now it's just building that into technology.
What is the value for me to share my financial decisions with anyone?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really at the core of like what our values are, which is around like transparency. It was a big question that we got when we were starting the business, because there was a doubt in people's mind, especially investors that we were pitching, of like, will people like link their brokerage? Will people share their portfolio? It was like the question that we were getting asked like 100 times, as you remember, Kartik. I can see him smiling. And essentially, what we saw is, especially for the younger demographic, millennial, like Gen Z, it's a very natural thing to be like, share and have that like public persona and to put yourself out there. And a lot of people are proud of their portfolios, and they want to basically either they want feedback. Like we have a ton of posts, which is people sharing their portfolio directly in the feed and asking, hey, do you have any feedback? There's the degree of where it's just nice to have it as like your profile and building it out so your friends can see. But there's actually much fewer like privacy, like, oh, I don't want to share than you would think. And in fact, I think we now have about 111 million, last I checked, of assets linked to the brokerage. And we have, I think it's like about half of our weekly active users are basically linking their brokerage without like too much push or prompt. And so it does seem to be, it's just the default behavior of like, hey, you're part of this community that is basically the core values like transparency. Maybe you joined because you're a YouTuber you watch. I talked about it. They're sharing their portfolio. You can see everyone else on the app is sharing your portfolio. So, it makes sense that to not be the odd one out and also sort of share yours. But yeah, Kartik, anything to add on that or what we've seen? I'll keep passing it to you here.
When I started, I had this same concern as you. So what I did was I did a 20 users research, a quick research in India, and checking that what are users' opinion about this whole model of sharing your portfolio. So the results which I found were very misleading. Coming from India, people were more hesitant and felt resistance to share their portfolio. So I was like, okay, is this even a good idea or not? The whole concept. But so I actually trusted Max on this completely, because he did I think at least 100 users research on this from Canada. Honestly, as Max shared the results, these are the true numbers, and this is literally the default behavior. The best part is I redid that research. I reached out to those 20 users again after completion of 1 year. I don't know, it's surprising.
So I want to flip it in a different direction, because we know social elements. We know what's happened with social in the past. I don't want to go down to the Cambridge Analytics or other things where we've seen social shape people's decision making. Does that become a challenge? Because are we opening this up for people to come in or investors to come in and shape people's ideas to push them in a direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really valid point, Dave. Where I often go with that is that's going to happen no matter what. And I think that it's always funny to me when people hear the concept of Blossom, and we get this a lot too. And then they think that it's sort of going to shape, in a big way, it's almost as if we're inventing the social interaction. And the reality is people are doing this whether Blossom exists or not. They're just going to be doing it on other platforms, which arguably that concern that you raised is going to be much worse, because let's just talk about Reddit, for instance. There's hundreds of thousands of people who are in the Reddit forums. Obviously, we know Wall Street Bets. But even in the smaller ones, there's one called Bay Street Bets, which is for Canadians. I'd almost tell you that, for one, everyone's anonymous, so you don't really know what type of investors the other people are. For two, a ton of people make investor relations of companies will set up accounts and basically pump their own stock within the Reddit forum, pretending to be real users. That sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I know people who work in IR, and they're we do this. And I know that half of the posts in here are from other people in the industry. So it's actually probably a much higher percentage of those forums than you would think. And so anyway, basically what I'm trying to emphasize is the current model is just so bad that, what we're building is an improvement on that. It'll still have some flaws. Obviously, you always want to do your own research and you always want to basically do your own due diligence. But having that ability to see what is this person's name, right? What's their background? What's their actual portfolio? How are they performing? There's so much of a deeper level for one that you can get from looking at another person's profile, as well as much richer conversations that you can have. And so that's sort of always my response to that question is it's never going to be perfect, but the reality is it's if it's not on Blossom, it's on these other platforms, which are much less safe, completely unregulated, and feeding even more dangerous investing activity, as we see with Bed Bath & Beyond and GameStop and all that. Yeah.
You said that Gen Z is more transparent and they are okay to share anything about themselves in social media. What about competition? Because when it's coming to financial decision, especially in investment, there's a lot of competitions, and about that you keep it as a secret so you can win, be more wealthy. So how the Gen Z is making that financial decisions when they be so transparent about their financial status?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And that one's come up as well a couple times. I find that also to be an interesting question around that concept of holding on to some information and not sharing it because it's I'll do better by sort of doing that. And I think that the reality is that just doesn't play out to be true in the broader stock market. And I think a lot of people sort of see that, and the actual behavior of people is different. If we use, for instance, a large cap stock, let's say I'm talking about Apple. If I have some sort of information on Apple, most people know that they're not going to ever move the Apple share price by sharing some sort of nugget of information. They're not a financial analyst. That's not going to move anything, right? But I mean, let's say that they find a smaller company, whatever, there's this case where they have this super insight. It's actually beneficial for them to share that knowledge, because if they truly believe it's a good investment opportunity and it's an undervalued company, you want more people to know about it. So more people invest in the company because then the stock price goes up. So it's actually the opposite, where people are incentivized to actually share that information and be to share it everywhere because they've already bought the stock, right? And they want more people to know about it. So yeah, we don't see that in the actual user behavior of trying to hoard information, I would say.
We have a lot of questions out there about the stock market and cryptocurrency and this element. What does that mean for Blossom going forth? What do you see for the future for Blossom as you move forth into the next stage? And I guess this next stage would be facilitating the transaction.
Yeah, I think the exciting opportunity that we're trying to unlock is that, buying and selling stocks on the platform. And I think the reason that that's really important to us is sort of two things. For one, if we think about the community, it really helps us unlock an even higher quality to that community. So if we talk about Reddit, where anyone can join, create infinite number of accounts, you have Blossom where there is that degree of encouraging users to link their brokerage. And so you have that higher quality. But once you're a brokerage, what we can basically do is the social side will be so tied to the brokerage side. And, you can only sign up for brokerage if you have a SIN number, and, you can't go and sign up for 5 different Wealthsimple accounts. So it fully solves that problem of making sure that the community is extremely high quality and people aren't adding bots or any of those sort of things. And so that's, I think, something that's really, really exciting about it. But then also just having those conversations take place in the same app that you are, making those transactions is a huge improvement, I think, on the current model. And I think a big opportunity, for us to disrupt in the market. And so if I think about our company aspirations, it's, to become the number one player in Canada in the brokerage space. If I think about, how it actually shifts the landscape of investing, I think it's around as the themes we touched on before about making investing more accessible, unlocking investing to a larger part of the Canadian, population, because folks aren't as intimidated to get started because they have those supports. And so I think those are some of the really exciting things in the more longer term. But maybe, Kartik, you can share some of the exciting things that we're working on the product like today.
Currently, we are working on Firstly, improving the feed algorithms a lot, making the feed as personalized as possible. Then we are also thinking to bring something called Blossom Pro premium model, where we can share very nice portfolio analytics with people. Later in the roadmap, our direct messaging so that people can connect further. To summarize, the future, I would say that making a huge trust-based community and a one-stop solution for everything related to investing.
Guys, this has been a really exciting conversation, and we're learning a lot about this. And I want to give you guys an opportunity too to get the message out. How do we get people signed up on Blossom? Because I think that's number one to let's drive your users for this element. But I also want to use this time to start thinking about what are some challenges that we can throw out to our students? What are some challenges that we can get our students thinking like you guys have been doing in maybe these hackathon elements or whatever element you think we can throw out and get them thinking and get them co-founding and finding opportunities to shape the next future?
Blossom Social on the App Store or Google Play. We should be pretty easy to find. We're number one ranked for Blossom on the App Store, which was a battle against all of these plant identifier apps. But we have the number one spot now, and we're actually ranked number 79. I just checked for finance apps in Canada. So we should be up the first ranking. But yeah, I mean, sharing, I guess, quickly before I touch on the challenge, I think just an interesting sort of color to add to that story of how Kartik and I met is we were actually never supposed to be on the same team at the hackathon that we went to. And so is this hackathon in Hong Kong. I actually went without a team because I was on exchange in Singapore. And they had this sort of like mix and mingle of like trying to find a team. I remember distinctly there was like sort of a hodgepodge of like 4 different people, and I was sort of half on the team, but I wasn't like super excited about it. And then I think I ended up meeting Kartik or something in the hallway, and you were with 2 colleagues from Delhi, and I was like, these guys are smart. I got to get on this team because this is the winning team. And so I actually sort of half ditched the other team, but I wasn't fully committed on there anyway.
Yeah, Max, just one thing to add before you proceed. I would say that the exact impression we had in our mind about you, that, okay, this is a big business guy. He's going to rock the business side. Let's get him on our team.
I don't know how I gave off that impression, but I'm happy I did. And then I think as it turns out, like, ironically, actually, I sometimes joke about this, but it was like a 48-hour hackathon or something. And for those of you who know, like hackathons, you're up all night coding and eating pizza. I think actually I didn't write a line of code for the whole hackathon, because like Kartik and the other 2 were such better developers than I was. But I leaned into like the business model and I basically made, I think, the prototypes and worked on the pitch. And I think that, like, at least from my end, it was made it very clear of like how much our skill sets complement each other. We actually ended up winning the hackathon. And there's more stories and stuff there. But I don't know whether you felt the same, Kartik, or whether you guys were like, wow, why did we let this guy on a team? He hasn't written a line of code.
That's a great story, but I have a final question. The data you're creating, I think it's a very valuable data about predicting the future of any investment, right? Do you have any plan for those data that you are creating in your app?
Yeah, I mean, so for one, we have no plans to, sell that data. I think that's a big question that's on a lot of users' minds. I mean, especially with Robinhood, they basically, make a lot of their money on like a business model called like payment for order flow, which is they're basically routing orders to market makers, which isn't, necessarily the same thing as selling data, but it is it definitely violated users' trust in a big way. And I think especially there's a lot of concerns around like that data selling. And so that's where it's like, when we talk about our business model and where the opportunity is, it's in building that brokerage and leveraging the social aspect to basically capture market share and have people join Blossom rather than one of the other brokerages. I think what's exciting about the data, though, is like it basically allows us to share really cool insights to the community. And so, for instance, we have the like top 25 stocks on Blossom. We can show like different, what's the most traded stock, and if you look on any stock, for instance, you can actually see the number of holders or a number of other people holding it and see other posts from that. And so I think the opportunity is, and Kartik, you can probably add to this, is more about like us wrangling that data to like provide a better like user experience. Because currently it's just like we are sitting on a lot of it, and I don't think we're leveraging it to its full potential as far as like advancing the product.
Exactly on the same page. Basically, there's a lot of data and we have plans to use it, only giving the first priority to trust-based community and using it for the community itself by providing them some deeper insights.
Yeah. But yeah, looping back to your question, Dave, I think as far as like the challenge, I mean, the reason I mentioned that sort of story there at the end of how we met is I think like, especially for those interested in entrepreneurship, the best advice that I could probably give is like, yeah, put yourself out there, join competitions, put yourself in these environments where you're going to meet other like smart entrepreneurial people like yourself, because you don't want to get into this like game of I want to start a company and then having to go on all these like co-founder like matchmakers and all those sort of things. Like not to say that there's any like issue with those, and I think those tools can be like really valuable, but I don't think anything beats like that, especially with competitions, because it's like Kartik and I actually got to basically grind together for like 48 hours, see how each other works, right? And then like, so when we went to start the company later, when I had the idea for Blossom, like, and reached out to Kartik, like there was no doubt in my mind that we like worked well together, because like that had already been like proven. And so it was a really easy partnership. And so I think like building your circle in that way, and I think obviously university is like a huge opportunity for that. So definitely don't like squander that in building those networks. I mean, we didn't start a company like after meeting, right? It was like 5 years ago, and we just kept in touch. And I think that's a testament to like how these things often happen, but it's like now is the time to like build that network, even if it's not for 5 years until you start something. It's like university is the best place, I think, to do that. And, we obviously didn't meet at university, but we met through university of like, that hackathon. I was on exchange, which was an opportunity presented from UVic. And then the hackathon was involved with the other university I was on exchange with. So it's like, it now is the best possible time to like start building that network.
Love it. Absolutely love it, guys. Yes, get out, network. We might even have to reach out to you guys to give us some hints on some hackathons that our students should be thinking about.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Max and Kartik. That was another episode of Innovation Fuel. Thank you for listening to Innovation Fuel. We are on all podcast streaming platforms, Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Visit our website at www.ucanwest.ca/Innovation Fuel. Also, follow us on Instagram at Innovation_Fuel.